Don't rush into working with people that you became friends with. You really do need time to understand that person. People that at the end of the day, even in the bad times, we know how to communicate with each other. We understand each other's strengths, weaknesses, triggers. Welcome back, my billion-dollar baby. And on today's episode, we're going to dive into what it's like to really work with your friends, family members, and so forth. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Should you build that business with a friend or a partner that you're in a relationship with? Should you work at another company with a coworker that's your friend previously? We're going to dive into all of that and really understand what could be pros and what could be cons of choosing to work with friends. I can tell you that I know best what that's like. I've built my business really from my network. And so with that, a lot of these people that I've built business with, as I was networking, I really started to care about them, and I really did relate to the things that they're frustrated with in life and problems they're having. And it almost gave me more motivation to want to be the thing that helps them, fix that and so forth. So a lot of the people I do work with were friends prior. It's interesting though, because I would say a lot of people have a rule where they're like, I don't work with friends. And, they can see that like, yeah, what I need for my business, or yeah, I know my company is hiring for someone that would be exactly what this person is, but I'm not going to recommend them because I don't work with friends. And people have that rule. And do I agree with that rule? Yes, but no. And I know that's weird because some of the best people I have today are my friends. But can I say that forever, it's going to be great? I don't know. But what I can say is like my love language is helping people be successful in life, helping people create freedom in life. And I think freedom comes when you actually feel financially secure and you feel good about what you're doing every day. And so helping people get there in a career is something that really is passionate for me. But I've had a lot of interesting situations happen from working with friends. A lot of times when you choose a friend to work with, you realize that you think you know them so well that there's no way that this person wouldn't be great in business with you. And, you start working with them, you go into it, and then you realize that they're so different from you. They don't actually value the things you value. They don't think it's important to spend money wisely, or they don't think it's important to take certain aspects of the job seriously, or they don't have the same values as you when it comes to a working environment. And you might see that when you refer a friend to the business you're working at, that, they're so great, but then, then you see that, maybe they don't treat it with as much respect as you do, and so forth. And so there are things that definitely come up when working with friends that can be heartbreaking and can sometimes hurt a relationship and, make it so you guys are not even friends anymore. But I can tell you from experience, because I've not only worked with friends, I've worked with my sister, and I've worked with boyfriends that I've been in a relationship with. So my whole entire journey has been revolved around two close people, like too close of people in my life being people I work with. And so it's been beautiful, but it's been heartbreaking. And I would say beautiful because there's so many amazing parts of my work. What I can say is like people come into my office that don't work with us and like beg me to hire them. They're like, can you hire me? Like, I want to work here. I want to be in this environment. This is amazing. And it's because I've created such an amazing environment with people that are like family, and we actually do care about each other, and we are friends, and we actually do have things in common, and like we have the same mission, and we can hang out after work. And that's the beautiful part about building relationships with people that you work with, as well as, going into business with someone you were already friends with. With that being said, there's a lot of caution that should come with this. And I too have learned over the years how to understand when someone is good or not. So let's kind of dive into that. First, from experience, there has been situations where I've made friends with people and, we networked. I heard of things that they do and they seemed very savvy and good at certain aspects of business that maybe were my weaknesses, which is a huge point. If you're building a business, you want someone that, has strengths in other areas. That's an important thing because then they can complement you well. Maybe not if you're referring them necessarily to a company you work at if it's the same position, but definitely if you're building a business. So what I can say is there's been times I've made friends with people and I've seen red flags in them on a personal sense, like maybe bragging about certain things that I'm like, okay, come on, like you're trying a little too hard to make me think you're cool, right? Like I've seen that in previous people I've worked with, someone in particular, and I was just like, you know what, it's fine. Like I'm just going to work with them. Only to later see that came from an ego place that ended up being something that went into other areas of work. And so my lesson for that is like, okay, don't rush into working with people that you became friends with. You really do need time to understand that person, understand, different morals they have or different values they have. Do they deal with issues similar to you? And if they don't, that's fine. But like, how do they deal with it? Like, do they communicate? Are they very prideful and they don't want to be wrong? Like, how do they deal with things? Because those are the parts that are going to come up in work. And if anything, they come up more in work than a friendship. So work is a stressful environment. Work doesn't always bring out the best in people, right? Like we're dealing with a lot when we're working. And so you're going to have to understand those sides of them and be like, is this someone that I still can deal with even in their bad times, right? And so what I've seen is the people that I've worked very well with, and as well as the talent that are now signed to me that we're friends, are people that at the end of the day, even in the bad times, we communicate. We know how to communicate with each other. We understand each other's strengths, weaknesses, triggers. And we, at the end of the day, have so much respect for each other that we know at the end of the day, we're coming from a good place in bad times. And I think that's the huge piece, because fights can happen when people feel taken advantage of or not. They don't feel like they're someone's grateful for them, or they feel disrespected and so forth. And, those things happen, and those things could still happen with a friend in work. You might feel disrespected. They said something rude to you, so forth. But at the end of the day, if you guys know each other, when you step away from that situation, if you know each other on a deeper level, and that at the end of the day, you guys have respect for each other and you do care about the bigger picture of your friendship, those things are able to be communicated and talked about. And it kind of happened to me before that, I had someone I was working with and they spoke to me rudely. And initially it's a trigger for me, because if you disrespect me, I'm just like, I'm just like, I just can't deal with it. So I was just like, don't talk to me like that. And I walked away and I'm like mad. And then I was like mean to them back. And then later I walked away for a while and then I'm like, you know what? Text them. I'm like, I don't like when we are like this to each other. I don't want to argue, but sometimes, and I know you mean well and you don't mean to hurt my feelings, but sometimes when you speak, it could seem like you're being disrespectful. And I would like you to communicate things when you're frustrated a little bit more, respectfully. And if you don't notice till after, if I get offended, like, let's communicate how we could talk to each other better when we're stressed. And they're like, I agree, you're right. We need to, I need to be better in those moments. And we talked about it. And so that's what I mean. The people that I've had the best working relationships with, people I was friends with first, like the best. But I've also had the worst relationships in work I've had have been friends too. And so that's what I say is like, I can't say 100% yes, you should work with your friends. And I can't say 100% no, you shouldn't. I'm someone that's very much like, it depends. Depends who that person is. And so if you're going into business with someone, write down like, okay, or if you want to refer someone to a workplace you work at, because I know that's a big one. And when you refer someone, it's a representation of you to your boss and the owner and so forth. You really want to like understand how they handle certain things. And maybe you even could do like a little test with them. Like, what would you be like in this situation? How would you handle this? Like things that come up in a work environment. What would you do in this situation? How would you handle this? Like go through a bunch of things that go on in your daily life or what you feel like would go on and see how they would handle it. Do you handle things differently? Can you communicate about why you handle things differently? If they said that, they would do this and you would do something opposite, can you tell them the opposite thing and they can say their opposite thing? And can you guys see eye to eye and start to understand each other's ways? Or is that become an argument? Like you see it like that? That's weird. And like those are the little red flags. And then it's like, can you guys work through it and massage it and see eye to eye, or can you totally not? And like then to slow down and maybe this isn't someone you should work with. But there's little ways that you could try to understand what will be like to work with someone. And I feel like I know this firsthand because, not everyone is as lucky enough to have a parent that has their own business. But I feel so grateful that my dad owned a business when I was younger. And I've kind of told people on previous podcasts, kind of my experience growing up. And I can't say that my dad was, overwhelmingly successful as in what America looks at as that, but like he was successful in my eyes. And like he owned a small shop and, I saw him work so hard for it. And he's so successful to me and, to a lot of other people from his country because he came all the way over here. He didn't know English and he's a very hard worker. Like to this day, he's working like 6 days a week or so. And he's the reason I am who I am. And so there's people that, grow up in a family business and they work with family, and working with family is so beautiful. And so, if you do have a sibling or someone, and if you guys are close or you have mutual respect, at the end of the day, they're family. So like you can trust your family in business. And so there's some people that have a rule that they won't work with family. But I do think it's about who that person is to you and how do you guys get along. And I would say that like when I got to work with my sister, it was amazing. And did she frustrate me? Yes. And did I probably frustrate her? Yes. And that's normal. But at the end of the day, we're family. We trust each other. We know we would never screw each other over in business. And so that same like thought process needs to kind of go into when you're choosing a business partner that you have a friendship with. Are you guys family at the end of the day? I know you guys aren't literally family, but like, do you care about each other beyond this or financial stuff? Like, do you guys have a mutual respect for each other on a deeper level? Or can you get there? And it's very important when going into business with someone to draft up an agreement, legality, and what can happen in certain situations. If this happens, this happens. If you don't do these things in our partnership and I don't do these things, then you have to give up your equity if they don't do their deliverables and so forth. Like you have rules that you guys have to abide by and have respect for each other. And it's very important to lay those out first and foremost, like really understanding what do each of us expect in this business relationship and how can I show up in this business relationship where it doesn't feel unfair to you. Because one thing I've also seen with people that work together that are friends is one of them getting taken advantage by the other one because they're friends and they feel like, well, I can do it to him or I could do it to her because they're my friend and they're not going to do anything. Like they're going to just be here for me because we're friends. And that's not right either, because then the other person grows resentment and it's not going to go the right direction. And so you want to make sure that these things are laid out clearly because not everyone feels comfortable to call out their friends. And so when you lay things out clearly of what you expect in the working relationship with a friend prior to moving forward, when that happens, or if that happens, you can revert back to what your agreement was. Like, hey, you said you're going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but I also feel like I'm picking up a lot of your stuff. Can can you pick up your stuff? If not, like, let's reevaluate this partnership because it's not what we agreed to on day one. Those are the types of things that are going to set you up for success later down the road in your career, or with friendships you're working with. Like I said, my love language is helping people financially. I always say, when I become more wealthy and I'm more financially free and I'm in a place where I can really just, breathe and not feel like I'm on the grind all the time, I'm gonna give back to so many young entrepreneurs and business and small businesses and help people with their dreams and curate what they want to do. And like, I want to invest in so many different people because I just feel like there's nothing that would be more fulfilling to me. So that's my love language. But that's not everyone's love language. And so there has been times where, people that I'm friends with have complained to me about things they want in their life. And so I go above and beyond to help them with that thing because I find fulfillment with it, and I give myself to them, and they don't appreciate it, or they, don't, value it at the level that, I gave my heart into it at. And I can tell, and I feel a little bit used or hurt. And I'm like, I'm never going to do that for them again. Like, they don't appreciate me, all these things. But as I've gotten older, I've realized, like, I can't expect people to be how I am. I can't expect people to see things the way I see them. And so if you're going to give to others, give and don't expect is a huge thing I've learned. But sometimes if you're in a business relationship with people, you have to set those boundaries, because you can't just give and give and give to someone that's not giving to you just because you're friends. So there's a difference. If they're not working with you and you give to them and then they don't value it or give back, it's hurtful. But like, you have to get to a place where you're like, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me because I love helping people, and that's my service to humanity. I love to give. But in business, you also have to make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of. And sometimes with friends, because you're friends, they do take advantage of you, or they don't work as hard and so forth, because they're like, well, they're never going to fire me, or they're never going to rat on me to our boss because we're friends, right? But then that's not respectful either, because then they also are not showing up to the friendship or the working relationship with respect to you. And so you have to set boundaries. And setting boundaries is not only respect for yourself, but it's also like you're valuing yourself too. Like, it's respect and value are very much the same thing, but like, value just feels even more special. When you value yourself, people can feel that. People want to show up for people that value themselves. People want to work with people that value themselves. People know when you value yourself that you have something special going on in there, and like, I want to be around it. We all want to be around people that are confident, that are sure of themselves, that value themselves in a work environment, that feel sure about what they're doing. It's very magnetic. So also, if you're getting walked all over by a friendship in business, like, just know that you're not only hurting yourself, you're also hurting them by allowing it. So, should you work with friends? I think that you really need to take the time to think about, is this a friend that I can work with through all these different aspects of what can happen in this specific job or career that I'm building? Be open to having those conversations. Can you guys have those conversations? Are you guys good at communicating? If you guys get in a fight, how do they react? What is their method of fighting? One thing that I'm learning a lot lately, which I think is so cool, is like, the perfect couple, and I would say a couple is a relationship. So every relationship in life should be looked at the same way. The perfect love couple, romantic couple, is not the couple that doesn't fight. It's the couple that fights right. It's how they fight. When they're fighting, how do they fight? Because honestly, fighting is actually making you guys stronger as a couple. So fighting with a friend actually can make you stronger in that relationship. And so depending on how you fight, obviously if it's toxic, not good. But there's times you have arguments with people, but it's how do they go about it? do they want to communicate it and talk about the areas where they can improve in future with that fight, and the other person can too, and you guys are both taking accountability for where you showed up in the situation. And one thing I always say when you're arguing is say that, well, this is how it made me feel, because nothing, when you're being factful to people that might be, not showing up in a work environment correctly, it's makes people have their guard up. So if you say to someone in work, like, well, it made me feel this way when you were doing this, it makes people be like, okay, I'm sorry I made you feel like that. I can see how I can make you feel like that. And then you start to be reflective and you work through things. So if you're trying to start this business or you're deciding if you want to work with a friend, I would say that there's a beautiful, beautiful part of being able to work with friends. And you definitely should go for it if you feel confident. But again, lay out exactly what that working relationship needs to look like. And don't be afraid to completely value yourself. And yes, you should value your partner too. You shouldn't value yourself so much that you don't value your partner, because that's not good either. But value yourself enough to lay boundaries about what you look for in this working relationship. And at the end of the day, make sure that your guys' friendship is in a place where you can withstand bad situations or negative stuff, because you are going to deal with that in a work environment. And so if you can't, I don't recommend going into business with friends. Thank you so much, my $1 billion babies. This episode was something that I was highly asked for. People saw me on social media with influencers, hanging out with girls that I have signed to my agency, as well as hanging out with people I work with. And they were asking me, like, how do you do that? Is that good? Should I work with my boyfriend? Should I work with my friend? Should I work with my sister? And so it was highly requested. And I do think that it could shine light on a lot of areas. If you have any other questions, comment down below. I'll be answering all of you guys. And it means so much to me when you guys watch this, comment, like, and subscribe. It makes me so fulfilled to see your comments and to make any sort of impact on your life, because, I truly do this podcast because it fulfills me. I'm not here like pushing ads or trying to monetize it. I've really just so far been like, I'm doing this because I want to give back and I want to share my experiences and I want to give and make people happy and create a life they dream of. So anything you guys want to know and anything you guys want me to talk about on new episodes, please tell me. It means the world to me, and I'll see you on the next episode.